Hello, it's Wednesday, June 28th, 2017. You are listening to Inception Radio Network, voice of the fringe majority. This is Carol Carl with UFO Headline News. The folks at earthsky.org have something interesting today. Drum roll, please. They're paying tribute to the Southern Cross, also known as the constellation Crux, or Crux. It's C-R-U-X. It's called the Southern Sky Signpost. For our friends in the Southern Hemisphere, and no matter where you live in the Southern Hemisphere, look to your southern sky for the Southern Cross just as soon as darkness falls. At temperate latitudes in the Southern Hemisphere, where it's winter now, astronomers say the Southern Cross swings to upper meridian transit. In other words, its highest point in the sky around nightfall, or 6 p.m. local time. There's an image you can find later at ufoheadlinenews.com. It's the Southern Cross as seen from Manila. It's remarkable. Now here comes that circumpolar star thingy. Because the Southern Cross is circumpolar, always above the horizon, at all places south of 35 degrees south latitude, people at mid-southern latitudes can count on seeing the Southern Cross all night long, every night of the year. Watch for the Southern Cross to move like a great big hour hand. It circles around the south celestial pole in a clockwise direction throughout the night. The Southern Cross will sweep to lower meridian transit, its lowest point in the sky, around 6 a.m. local time tomorrow. If you're situated geolocation-wise so that the Southern Cross is circumpolar in your sky, then the Big Dipper never climbs above your horizon. Conversely, if the Big Dipper is circumpolar in your sky, then the Southern Cross never climbs above your horizon. Quite an arrangement. Additionally, that W or M-shaped, depending on your point of view, Cassiopeia is also circumpolar at northerly latitudes. You can check out charts and graphs to your heart's content later at ufoheadlinenews.com. It says here you have a better chance of seeing the Southern Cross and the Big Dipper in the same sky right now if you're in the southern tropics. That's because the winter season in the Southern Hemisphere ushers in an earlier sunset time than at comparable latitudes in the northern tropics, where it's now summer. Bottom line here, a tribute to the Southern Cross, also known as the constellation Crux. The crux of the matter for tonight's sky, at least. Speaking of skies, well, not tonight, but it's that long story arc, space-wise, from NASA. They're continuing with that canister launch attempt. Here's the headline from Deborah Bird, dated June 27th. Expect colorful clouds from rocket launch. Yes, well, we've been doing precisely that, expecting those clouds. So has NASA, and they're going to give it yet another try. Here's the story. NASA sounding rocket to form blue, green, and red clouds in space Thursday morning. Launch window opens 4:25 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. That backup launch date is now June 30th. Well, at least there's a backup for the backup for the backup. We think this is going to be time number 9 for this attempt. NASA said on June 27, 2017, that the launch of its Terrier-Improved Malemute sounding rocket, that's an ironic name, is scheduled for between 4:25 and 4:48 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. It's Thursday, June 29th now. It said the launch window is determined by sun angles and the location of the moon. The rocket's going to test a new multi-canister ejection system for deploying vapors in rocket missions, so Earth's upper atmosphere and ionosphere can be further studied. In other words, aurora soundings. Upon launch of the rocket, the vapors will form luminescent blue, green, and red artificial clouds, and those clouds are expected to be seen from New York to North Carolina. The visitor center at the Wallops Flight Facility on Wallops Island, the eastern shore of Virginia, will open at 3:30 a.m. on launch day, and you can go on down there, view it live. We're assuming it's free. Live coverage online begins on the Wallops Ustream site at 3:45 a.m. on launch day, and of course, Wallops is a presence on all the social media, Facebook, Twitter, etc. The launch was originally scheduled for early June and has been postponed several times. Here's the official NASA explanation of what this project is about. Quote, these clouds or vapor tracers allow scientists on the ground to visually track particle motions in space. The development of this multi-canister ampule ejection system will allow scientists to gather information over a much larger area than previously allowed when deploying the tracers just from the main payload. These vapor tracers are formed through the interaction of barium, strontium, and cupric oxide. The tracers will be released at altitudes of 96 to 124 miles high and pose absolutely no hazard to residents along the mid-Atlantic coast. So, being earthsky.org, here's the bottom line. A launch of NASA's Terrier-Improved Malemute sounding rocket expected to form colorful clouds in space visible from New York to North Carolina. Launch window opens at 4:25 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time, Thursday, June 29th. Oh, they've got a backup launch day just in case, and that's June 30th. Here comes a story that we really weren't going to touch with that proverbial 10-foot pole. Well, we're going to do that not once, but twice. Two versions of this. Let's start with Mike Wall, who writes it for space.com. He's their senior writer. And here's his headline: No, NASA hasn't found alien life. NASA is not preparing to drop an alien life bombshell, despite what you may have heard. Last week, the hacking group Anonymous posted a video on YouTube suggesting that the space agency is about to announce the discovery of life beyond Earth. The video has made a big splash online, so big, in fact, that NASA science chief Thomas Zurbuchen addressed the rumor on June 26th. He said, quote, contrary to some reports, there's no pending announcement from NASA regarding extraterrestrial life, end quotes. That's via Twitter. He posts there as at Dr._Thomas Z. He continues, quote, are we alone in the universe? While we do not know yet, we have missions moving forward that may help answer that fundamental question, end quotes. The video from Anonymous focuses not on hacked documents, but rather on testimony Zurbuchen gave back in April during a hearing of the House of Representatives Committee on Science, Space, and Technology. It's a 12-minute video. You can link to it later at ufoheadlinenews.com. It touches on some other topics, including those 7 Earth-sized planets, the TRAPPIST-1 system, and it includes several supposed UFO sightings. Anyway, during the April 26th hearing, which was called, quote, Advances in the Search for Life, end quotes, Zurbuchen laid out the progress NASA has been making in the hunt for life in the cosmos. He cited, among other things, the thousands of exoplanets spotted by the agency's Kepler Space Telescope, that recent discovery of hydrogen in the geysers blasting from the south pole of Saturn's moon Enceladus, and the possible detection of water vapor plumes emanating from the Jovian satellite Europa. Zurbuchen added during that hearing, quote, taking into account all of the different activities and missions that are specifically searching for evidence of alien life, we are on the verge of making one of the most profound, unprecedented discoveries in history, end quotes. In the recent video, Anonymous takes that second half of this sentence and runs with it. They spin it into, quote, NASA, space, mankind is about to discover extraterrestrial life, end quotes. And those words are from an anonymous spokesman wearing the group's famous Guy Fawkes mask. And whether or not it's for purposes of escaping identification or just dramatic effect, the voice is digitally altered at the beginning of the video. The interpretation isn't strictly wrong, says Mike Wall, but, quote, on the verge, end quotes, is a far cry from, quote, has found evidence, end quotes. And anyone expecting an earth-shattering announcement from NASA in the next few weeks or months is bound to be disappointed. There's a link. You can watch that entire April 26th hearing. You can read Thomas Zurbuchen's submitted testimony. Find it later at ufoheadlinenews.com. And we can't leave without that follow-up story. Another mainstream source, even more so, Newsweek.com, with a byline for Connor Gaffey, who chooses this headline: NASA to anonymous, space. No, we don't have evidence of aliens. Are we alone in the universe? Maybe not. Do we have any evidence of aliens? Definitely not, at least not yet. And this story, gentle listeners, obviously tracks right alongside of the previous, the space.com coverage. Connor Gaffey continues, that was NASA's response, the at least not yet, after the hacking collective Anonymous released a video claiming that the American organization was on the brink of revealing as yet undiscovered extraterrestrial life forms. Thomas Zuberchin, the Associate Administrator of NASA's Science Mission Directorate, he was heavily quoted in the anonymous video, and he spoke out on Monday to confirm NASA isn't sitting on what is potentially the biggest space discovery ever. So, end of story. And of course, there were rumblings that this was the run-up to the big event, a false flag event. Just theories, conspiracy theories or not, it's up to you to decide. It's way back Wednesday here at UFO Headline News, so let's go back, way back to last Wednesday. We can do that. It's a story entitled The Mother of All UFOs, ? This is part 2. We picked up both parts of this story at mysteriousuniverse.org thanks to a tip from the man in the high castle. Part 1 of this article introduced you to the incredible story of the late J.R. Oliver. He was a man who, in 1949, was involved in a sensational UFO encounter at the height of a United Kingdom military exercise. The code name for this exercise, Operation Bulldog. In a letter sent to UFO researcher Tim Good in 1991, and then copied and sent to Nick Redfern, it was revealed that at the height of this operation, a definitive UFO was tracked on radar by the staff of multiple military installations in the United Kingdom. It was a UFO that was estimated to have been flying close to 3,000 miles per hour in 1949. With that said, let's now continue with what else J.R. Oliver had to say about this UFO encounter and about the UFO itself. Quote, the general consensus regarding its size among the very experienced radar personnel engaged in the operations was that the object offered an echo similar to that of a large passenger or freighter surface vessel, something in the region of 15,000 or 20,000 tons. Word filtered down that on approaching Bempton radar in Yorkshire, this object suddenly increased speed and headed directly upwards, vanishing off-screen at about 100,000 feet, end quotes. That was hardly the end of the story, however. In fact, there was more to come, much more. J.R. Oliver continues, quote, naturally, there was quite a bit of buzz about this, especially as at that time speeds in excess of the speed of sound were just not on. Neither were aircraft the size of liners. The airspeed record at that time stood at 606.36 miles per hour, and the largest aircraft in general use was probably the United States Air Force Super Fortress, which lumbered along at about 350 miles per hour. At our usual relief time, B-Watch stood down and went to breakfast and bed at the domestic site at Stoner House. We were awakened from our watch slumbers by Sergeant Platt. We were assembled in front of Stoner House with our Sergeant Belcher, Sergeant Hatter, and various minor NCOs in attendance for an address by Squadron Leader Mundy. That's spelled M-U-N-D-Y. End quotes. Oliver went on to reveal what exactly Squadron Leader Mundy had to say about this extraordinary situation. Quote, he reminded us of our duties as serving members of the Royal Air Force and the requirements of the OSA, the Official Secrets Act. To forget, especially the odd circumstances of this past night, and not to mention same to anyone not connected with the Royal Air Force. Going on watch that evening, we found that the duty watch book, normally only replaced when completely full, which recorded every air engagement, every PBX message, every official order by the watchkeeping officer, made during every official part of previous watches, including the previous night's activity.
Celebrate the holiday with great savings during Lowe's Go Forth event. Make your patio a happening hangout for family and friends with up to 25% off select patio furniture and outdoor decor. And your guests are gonna be hungry, so be prepared to grill with a 2-pack of Kingsford charcoal now for just $9.88. All projects have a starting point. Start with Lowe's. Patio and charcoal offers valid while supplies last in U.S. only. Charcoal offer limited to 2 bags per customer, 6/28 through 7/5.
Well, that official watch book required to record all these things had gone missing. It was replaced by a brand new, shining duty watch book. I wonder why. Removing a half-empty watch book was unheard of during exercises such as bulldog, especially, end quotes. J.R. Oliver continues now with his account. Quote, the rest of the exercise took its natural course, and about a month later, my service with the RAF ended. Whether there were any further developments regarding this incident, I do not know, but it seems likely that evidence of its happening must be on file somewhere. This incident was observed by such a large and highly trained audience, its progress so well documented and meticulously recorded, and, no doubt, the technical aspect so well scrutinized by top-ranking members that the official documentation of its occurrence would settle the UFO controversy permanently, end quotes. Oliver's final words, quote, all aspects of Operation Bulldog were due to be analyzed in great length in order to bring our defense against possible nuclear attack to the highest level. There is no doubt that the incident I have described, totally beyond the expectations of the organizing authorities as it must have been, would receive the closest scrutiny, and that many opinions must have been placed on record. In addition to the personnel directly involved in the tracking of the object, it is highly likely that a good many people must have gained knowledge of this occurrence, and therefore proof of it happening may not be too far in hiding, end quotes. And sadly, despite Mr. Oliver's hope that records on this affair were preserved and might one day surface, such a thing has not happened. At least, not yet it hasn't. According to Nick Redfern, back in 1995, he spent a few days at the United Kingdom's National Archives. He did find some records on Operation Bulldog, some declassified and others still withheld. The records on that massive craft that penetrated British airspace and prompted a hasty cover-up of the evidence were nowhere to be found. Perhaps now, in light of all the data that Nick Redfern has provided in parts 1 and 2 of this article, it's time for someone else to try and dig out the truth and the files of the Operation Bulldog UFO affair of 1949. Just maybe they'll finally surface, and we might gain more insight into the early years of the UFO phenomenon. Oh, so say we all. And with the interesting occurrences of release of classified files in the United Kingdom, maybe, just maybe. But that's it for this Way Back Wednesday. We hope you've enjoyed it. We hope we piqued your imagination. We hope you'll go out and sleuth around on your own, even maybe a local library. But right now we've got to flee because that's a wrap. Thank you for listening to Inception Radio Network. Follow today's broadcast at ufoheadlinenews.com or YouTube. Take care of each other. We're all in this together. This is Carol Carl. See you tomorrow.